Everybody find it? You got one, Renan? Yeah? Perfect.
It was second Avot?
Avot.
So
Okay.
chapter
I
1.
might say Abot in yours.
487.
So funny.
Where we are?
487.
You have the same volume?
Yes, the black one.
Excellent.
And what chapter are we on?
No,
One.
no,
One? Oh, we're sorry, right at the beginning.
Right at the beginning. Chapter 1. Mishnah 1. So good morning, Shavuot Tov. We're getting ready for Hanukkah, so and we're continuing on our and trying to get a grasp of who's against who. Me neged me, they say in Hebrew. It's an expression. Who's against who in Jewish tradition. So the best place to look for this is Masechet Avot, chapter 1, Mishnah 1. Who knows it off by heart? Who knows it off by heart tomorrow? That's it. It's not long.
Who knows what to do?
Tomorrow. B'ezrat Hashem. Moshe kibel Torah miSinai. Follow along.
Oh!
Moshe kibel Torah miSinai. Umesara liYoshua. What does it mean? Moshe kibel Torah miSinai.
Moshe received the law.
Received the Torah
from
Sinai. Makes sense? So far, so good.
And handed it down.
Umesara, handed it. Mesara. Now you learned a new word in Hebrew. Limsor means to hand. When you're playing football or soccer, then you say to someone, pass the ball. Pass. In Hebrew, it's limsor. So he handed it over. He passed it over. He passed like when you're running on the relay race. You hand over the baton to the next runner. You know what I'm talking about? So Moshe kibel Torah miSinai. Something called Torah. What it means, I don't know. It means instruction, but we said many times the word Torah refers to not only the 5 books, it's the entire Jewish tradition. Moshe kibel Torah miSinai umsarah. It's a shortened word. Masar otah. He handed it. Masarah liYoshua. Who's Yahushua? Yahushua ben Nun. Right. Where does he appear? Stories about him.
The first book of the Nevi'im.
Right, both in the Torah at the end. It says that Yahushua was Moshe's student, and he gets appointed by Moshe to take over after him, and then the entire book of Joshua. Right?
The first time was when they sent the spies, right?
That's right. Moshe ben Nun Yahushua. He got a new name. His name used to be Hosea, and Moshe added a Yud to his name, Yahushua. And Chazal explained because Moshe was praying for him. It's a unique form of prayer when you change someone's name. Well, and the word Yud K, if you add the Yud to the Hey at the beginning, forms a shortened name of God. Right, we know the full name of God. The Tetragrammaton is the Yud and the Hey and a Vav and a Hey. So just half of that is Yud and a Hey. So if you put a Yud on the top of to the beginning of the word Hosea, it becomes Yehoshua. And then Yud and the Hey, the name of God. So Moshe was praying that Yahushua should be saved from the bad counsel of the other 10 spies. We know now that they were spies, the 10 leaders. Anyways, Yahushua, Moshe kibel Torah miSinai. We got off by heart now so far?
Yes.
Moshe kibel Torah miSinai. Umesara. Again, Umesara. Yahushua. So far, so good. It's not so hard. Yahushua. Lizkenim. Who's the Lizkenim?
Past it.
But the word past it doesn't appear. But who are the Lizkenim?
Is the 70?
The 70 elders. That's right. They also where do they appear?
With,
Elders.
Moshe,
Moshe also appoints 70 elders before he passes in the desert. Moshe complains, I can't do it all myself. Got to have 70 elders. So, but in this series, it comes after Yahushua. Sounds like Yahushua was the leader. When Yahushua died, there was no head leader. That took over was the rest of the elders. There was this group of elders formed already in the Torah. But so Yahushua handed over the Torah to them. Moshe kibel Torah Sinai. Repeat after me. Moshe kibel Torah Sinai. U'mesara leYoshua. V'Yeshua lizkenim. Okay, you got that? Yeshua lizkenim. Zkenim means elders. Zaken is old. Zkenim, plural. Yeshua lizkenim. U'zkenim leNevi'im. Who's the Nevi'im? What do you say?
No, actually, I have a. Well, the the prophets. But
The prophets.
The question
yeah.
is,
Okay, what's your question?
what's the difference between U and Ve?
It's a grammatical difference. Sometimes it's pronounced a different way, but it forms the same function as a linking word. So a linking, it's and in English, but there's different pronunciations based on the letters, and the soft letters, the hard letters. We won't get into the dictum now. Okay, ask your Opan teacher for that.
It's all fun today, though.
No fun today.
Why not?
Dad's have Hanukkah break too.
Oh my gosh,
Thanks for coming.
horrible. But don't worry, I'm leaving before it gets dark.
Where'd you get that?
Okay, so the Nevi'im. The Nevi'im are the prophets. Who are the prophets?
Yoshua,
Yoshua. Now, come on. See, Yoshua is Kenim and then prophets. So, fine. We know Moshe was the chief prophet of all time. So it can't be exclusive.
Bro.
But who? So who's the prophets coming after?
Uriel?
Yoshua. He came after. It's true. It wasn't immediately after.
Earlier ones actually well.
Oh, he was before the first. Nathan was before.
Good. You said Shmuel, Natan. They're both good prophets in the first temple times. That's right.
No,
We
before the
have
first temple.
even
Is it
before the
Natan?
first temple.
Is it
Yeah.
these people
Good.
here?
Some of them are listed. They have their own books. Some of them don't have their own books. Like Natan, he just mentioned, doesn't have his own book. He's mentioned in the Book of Kings, but he doesn't have a name. There were prophets who don't have their own book. You might have heard of. Who do we talk about on Motzei Shabbat in our prayers? Eliyahu Hanavi. He was a prophet. Is there a book called Eliyahu? No book called Eliyahu, but his stories about him are brought in the Book of Kings. So
There's no.
the answer to your question is yes or no.
Some of them are.
Some of them are in that list and some are not.
Eliyahu is not Elijah?
Yes.
There's no book?
No book of Elijah, no. Maybe there's one in the Apocrypha, but there's not one in the Tanakh.
I think you're right.
Oh, good question. So that's why I asked you to teach you that it's in Seder Nezikin. Look for the one that says Nezikin on it, and you'll find. Okay, so prophets. We don't know who the
Oh,
prophets
there's
are.
not one in Apocrypha.
No. So
I'll say Pinchas Kehati.
that's his name of the commentary.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Seder Nezikin.
Right, sure looking for. There might even be 2 volumes of Seder Nezikin, so you got to be careful. Find the one that has Avot in it. Maybe it's only 1 volume.
None of the Kahati ones.
No,
Those
it's
are all out.
Isaiah. It's
Sure. I'm sure.
Isaiah is a prophet, sure. Okay, can we proceed? Everybody with me? Know what's going on? Yeshua Lizkenim Uzkenim Leneviim. Nevi'im, lots of Nevi'im throughout the entire First Temple period. There were prophets, right? We spoke about it the other day. You're right, Yirmiyahu was at the end, right? Yechazkel even afterwards. And then we talked about who the last prophets are. Do you remember who was the last prophet chronologically? Anybody remember?
Amos?
Nope.
No? Matthew?
He wasn't a prophet. Malachi, excellent. Malachi.
Oh, he's right here.
That's right. At the end of the 12 minor prophets, that's where they put him. It's a short book.
Sorry, just to clarify. So you're saying that some of the 12 minor prophets are not actually prophets?
The opposite. I said there are many prophets that don't have their own book.
Sorry, gotcha. Sorry,
All the minor prophets are prophets.
gotcha.
Matter of fact, wasn't yesterday's Haftarah from the book of
Amos.
Amos?
Yep.
That might have been Malachi, but that was 2 weeks ago. Okay, so far so good? What's next in the Mishnah? Look it up. Recite the Mishnah with me from the beginning. Moshe, Kibel. Let's do it all together slowly, on pace. Moshe, Kibel, Torah, Sarah, Vehoshua Zkenim. Uzkenim Ninvi'im. Unevi'im Misaruha. The same word again. For some reason, it's just a literary thing. They passed it on. Masaru ota, Misaruha. They passed it on. Le Anshe Knesset Hagdolah. That translates as
Great assembly.
the men, Anshe, the men of the great assembly. So far, so good. That's the end of the chain of tradition. What happens next? What's the next word in the Mishnah? Hey, Mamru Shlosha Dvarim. So we already start here and we get some of their teachings. They teach us three things. And Shimon HaTzadik is the beginning of the next Mishnah. Go to the beginning of the next Mishnah. Forget about what they said. I'm just giving you the structure here. Shimon HaTzadik is at the beginning of the next Mishnah?
Yeah.
Yes? Shimon HaTzadik, Haya,
Was.
Mishiyarei, from the leftovers, last of Anshe Knesset Hagdolah. Right? So, wait a minute. Does anybody remember I told you a story about Shimon HaTzadik? Who was he and what did he do? Something recently I mentioned the story about him. Just a little pop quiz here. Who's listening? Can review the tapes on YouTube. Sure, I told you the story.
There's actually no tape.
Something to do with not a tape. I know, a video. Excuse me. It's an oldest fashioned. What do you say?
I don't remember.
Okay. Something about Hanukkah. Something about the Greeks. Who conquered Israel and when?
333.
Right, minus 333. Alexander the Great
And then the Babylonians, I think.
came to Israel, conquered it.
Alexander the Great, he bowed down to.
That's it. I told you. So the Shimon HaTzadik went out to greet him, wearing the clothes of the Kohen Gadol. And the tradition says he bowed down to him. And I had a vision of him in my dreams. Oh, okay. I wasn't.
Yeah.
I actually did tell you. So Shimon HaTzadik is the beginning of the Greek era. Okay, so we're gonna, and he tells us some teachings, but Masechet Avot is all ethical teachings. So the first Mishnah, we're skipping the content. Second Mishnah, Shimon HaTzadik, skipping the content. What's the next Mishnah? Go to the next Mishnah. Yossi ben Yochanan, the Yosef ben Yoezer, Ish Yerushalayim. No, you skipped one. You skipped one. No? Kiblu, ma'am. There you go. Yosef ben Yoezer.
Skip one. No, skip one.
I have another one.
4.
I have
Antigonus ish Socho Kibel Mishimon HaTzadik. Okay, so we have the chain continues. Antigonus, what kind of name is that?
Sounds
It sounds Greek to me. We're deep into the Greek era, right?
Yeah.
This is the chain of tradition. It continues throughout the Greek era. Rabbis are teaching us Torah, Jewish ethics. So the who took over for Shimon from Shimon? Antigonus. Where was he from?
Soho.
Yeah, he was from Soho. You know that
What is
neighborhood in New York? Soho? No, Soho. It's a place in Israel. I don't know exactly where.
there is I think a spice in Japan that is so.
Maybe
food-
Soho's, yeah.
food in Japan.
Anyway, Soho was a place in Israel. They had lots of olives there, from which you made oil. And Soho,
Where
the
is
word
it?
lasuch is to anoint,
Where
to
exactly
rub your
is
body.
this
So,
place?
sorry,
Where exactly is it?
I don't know. I
Ah,
don't know. I have to look it up. If we know it all, but we must have some traditions. Anyways, Antigonus, fine. And then what?
Then-
Next Mishnah. So he also teaches us something in that Mishnah. Go to the next Mishnah. Yosef ben Yoezer.
of Zerata.
Who can read for me the next Mishnah, guys? Come on.
Zerata.
Yosei ben Yoezer.
Ish
Ish
Yerushalayim.
Yerushalayim. Where was he from?
Omer, he's from Jerusalem. Omer, he.
Wait. Before that, didn't you skip?
No, I.
Can you?
Yosef ben Yochanan.
Ish Yerushalayim.
Oh wait, so that's what I was looking for. That sentence that you just read. You didn't say that. Who is it? Who? Two Yossis, right? Yossi and Yossi. And who did they receive from?
Him.
From who? From Antigonus. Right. Antigonus. So yeah, who's the next in the chain?
Yossi
ben
ben
Yochanan, Yerushalayim.
Yossi ben Yochanan and Yossi ben Yoezer together.
Yep.
There's two in the same generation. This is a twist. Right?
Yeshua,
What Mishnah are you in? What Mishnah number what?
4.
Mishnah number 4. So it says Yosef ben Yoezer ish Tzereida and Yosef ben Yochanan ish Yerushalayim Kiblu Mehem. Kiblu Mehem. Who's the Hem? I guess Antigonus and Shimon. Maybe they also learned by Shimon.
Okay.
But they are in the same generation. Yossi and Yossi. It's easy to
Probably a
remember. Yes,
So these guys' names are Yossi.
that's right.
Were their names actually Yosef?
It's a good question. I don't know. Anyways, they're going to teach us some ethical teachings too. But what I'm showing you is a chain. So skip over. Dalit has the first Yossi's teaching. Hey, Mishnah 5 has the next Yossi's teaching. Go to Mishnah Vav. Mishnah Vav, Mishnah 6.
Yahushua.
Ah, that's a new name. Yahushua ben Prachia. And the Nitai Arbeli Kiblu Mehem. What does that mean? They received from them. You see what's going on here? From this point on, you just saw the first set of pairs. And now in this Mishnah 6, the second set of pairs. First one was Yossi and Yossi. What's the second one? Yahushua and Nitai. Very good. So, if I was a good teacher, I would tell you to write them down. So I'm going to try to be a good teacher. Everybody take out a pen and paper and write down the chain of tradition as it's presented in Pirkei Avot, Mishnah Aleph. A piece of paper, a pen. Right behind Jacob, there's a cup over there with a bunch of pens. Bring that to the table. It'll work.
Start with the first part.
Whoever's finished, raise your
Start
hand.
with Moshe?
Moshe is a good place to start. Always Moshe.
Bob, how was your Shabbat?
Excellent. Thank you.
Moshe 2.
Sure. Okay. Okay.
Who's finished? Great. Russell, go ahead and look for pair number 3, 4, and 5. You have your Hebrew, you have English.
Oh, were you wanting me to read it out loud or just?
No, just for yourself. Just for yourself. Nice.
That's just a coffee. Next, let me think.
What?
Yes.
Should go ahead with the 5, 6, and 7.
Yeah, keep going. There's 5 pairs.
Okay.
Try to get all 5 pairs.
Which mission does it end with?
I don't know. The last pair
And then
appears in 12. Mishnah 12 is the last one. You got them?
We just, okay. Not like all of them, not just the pairs. Or we specifically looking.
Start with
for-
Moshe
Where did? Okay.
and
I
end
got
up
2.
with the 5th pair.
I think I did it, but
You got all 5?
yeah. I'm just like copying what it says.
Okay.
That's what I asked you to do. Yeah.
So whenever it says that the elders passed it on to the Nevi'im, and that they passed it on to the Anshe Knesset Gedolah.
Yes.
So is that to imply that there wasn't a Sanhedrin in the period, like at some point in history?
It's a good question. So the Sanhedrin is not exactly the same thing as the Knesset HaGdolah.
Okay.
Knesset HaGdolah, 120 members. This was some kind of a parliament.
Okay.
Not quite the Beit Din. Maybe it's a super Beit Din. We know 70, right?
Yes.
It's a different system. So there were. We don't know that much about that Great Assembly, what it looked like, and when it existed exactly. But there's definitely a tradition that it existed. And so I wouldn't try to make it the exact same as the elders or the exact same as the Sanhedrin, which came later. Sanhedrin, by the way, is a Greek word.
Right.
Right? So you can imagine this is the time that it got developed and called such.
I have a
Yeah.
question about the Great Assembly. So was that 120 all at one time, or was that like a body that over a certain period of time had 120 members that spanned its existence?
I think that point is debated, and it's debatable, but the
Okay.
standard interpretation is that there was 120 at one time.
Okay.
But we'll see. Okay, everybody got it? Yeah? So far, so good?
Yes.
So who was the first in the chain of tradition?
Moshe.
Moshe. Next.
Yeshua.
Next.
Shimon. Antigonus.
You just skipped
Soko.
4 things.
Moshe.
Moshe, Yeshua. What comes next?
Zakanim.
Zakanim is elders.
Nevi'im. Anshe.
And then the
Knesset
elders.
Hagdolah,
Nevi'im.
of whom a member was Shimon Hatzadik.
Okay.
He was the final member. He passed it on to Antigonus.
Let's keep it. Moshe, slow down a second. Let's go by numbers, okay? Number, and we make it very clear. Number 1, Moshe, right? Number 2, Yeshua. Third chain, the link in the chain is
Oh,
Zekanim. Zekanim, meaning elders. So far, this is all even terms that appear in the Chumash, right? Moshe,
Right.
Joshua, the elders, they're all there in the Chumash, right? So that makes sense there. The leadership it continued after Moshe died. Yeshua's the Zekanim. And then there was leadership called the Nevi'im, the prophets. You said a few names of the prophets. By the way, when you look at the chronology in the Tanakh, who are the leadership after Yahushua?
Some Shoftim.
Exactly, there's another word, another name, Shoftim. So they were Shoftim. This Mishnah doesn't mention them. They were, you could say, maybe more political leaders. You read the book of Judges? Yes, Moshe, you read it? It's a good book. Yaakov, you read the book yet?
I haven't yet. I
Not
hope
yet.
to.
You hope to. I hope you do too.
I think it was local leaders, like
Many of them were local, yeah. Many of them were local. This tribe, that tribe.
Yeah.
That's right. They're the political leaders. What is this Mishnah more referring to? The chain of, what are they passing over?
Torah.
Torah, chain of Torah. Sounds like it's the religious leadership.
Mhm.
So as for with all some of the Shoftim, maybe were also religious leaders. We're not
Alright,
sure.
Just to clarify, who are the Shov team or what are they?
So the book of Judges.
Okay.
They were
Judges.
political leaders. They were political
Oh,
leaders
I see it's Shov
of
team.
different for a period of time before there was a king, before the first king. Who was the first king?
Shaul.
Oh, right. And after him,
David,
David. You might have heard of that. First temple.
and then Shlomo.
Good.
Yep.
Excellent. So you could make maybe a branch. And you could say, after Yahushua, let's do it on the board. So you see what I'm talking about.
And Shoftim.
So Moshe is easy. Moshe. And then you have Yahushua. Now what you guys know from reading the Bible is that after Yeshua
It's a
comes
nice book.
the Judges. Right? And after the Judges comes, what's the next book? What? Samuel.
Kings.
And then Kings. Right. So Samuel was a prophet, not a judge, but it does say that Samuel also judged the people. So maybe he was part of the judges. He was also a prophet. But then and of course in the book of King, we've got kings. So this is one chain, but that's not what it says in our Mishnah. This is in the Bible. We're discussing now perhaps not the written law. This is the written Torah. We're discussing the oral law. Moshe gave Torah to Yahushua, and Yahushua passed it on to
Shimon.
who?
Wait, is it?
You just wrote it down. What's the number 3?
Mhm.
Zekenim, otherwise known as the elders. Right? You said there's 70 in the Torah. There was 70 anyways. I don't know if they were always 70, but
Probably.
then they passed it on to who? Prophets.
Maybe.
Prophets.
Mm.
Can be similar.
Prophets. Well, when did they? Well, Samuel was a prophet, and prophets lasted throughout the time of the kings. Kings 1, Kings 2. We know that there were prophets after there were no more kings. Right? We said Yirmiyahu, prophet at the end of the first temple, and then even in the second temple time there were prophets. So the prophets goes for quite a while. And what's the next link in our chain?
The men of the great assembly.
Great Assembly.
Sorry.
So how long is this period of the prophets?
70 years.
70 years? How long did the first temple stand for?
No,
410 or something like that?
After the temple.
So at least 400 years, and it started even before. Samuel was before there was the kings, right? So we're talking about a great big period here, right? Entire first temple period where there was, I guess there was the religious leadership, and then there was the political leadership, right? I guess here you could say the same thing with judges, political, tribal leaders, like Renan said, and this came where they were. This is the tradition of the oral Torah, right? Moshe Kibel Torah, Sinai, Torah from Sinai. What was given at Sinai? Was it just the books that are written down? Apparently, there was a lot more going on here that was being passed down. The oral Torah, right? Until we get to the men of the Great Assembly, and then what happens? So just pointing out, this is a short list of 1, 2, 3, 4. We're now at the 5th stage, but we've passed 1,000 years in history, right? This stage was very long. In Yeshua, we know that he passed one over to the other, very short. Moshe lived for how long?
120.
120 years. Yeshua, we don't know. I don't know. Maybe it
I don't
says,
know.
but maybe 100 years. I don't know. 80 years. I don't know how long Yeshua lived for. But that's it. So this is the sum total of the 150 years, maybe 200 years. And then this Kenim, we don't know how long that lasted. But the point is not to tell us the chronology here. The point is to tell us the chain of tradition. And the prophets continued and received from the elders, and they continued to pass on the Torah for hundreds and hundreds of years. Hundreds and hundreds of years. Until we get the great men of the Great Assembly. And then, that's stage number 5. What's 6?
Yeah.
Shimon, right?
The last of the men of Great Assembly.
He was the one of the last, right? And then 7 is Antigonos. Don't forget Antigonos.
Yeah.
And we said this is the era of, obviously, the temple was destroyed at the end of the Kings, right? At minus 586 is usually the count. Minus 586 is the first temple destruction. 70 years in exile, come back, minus 516, 506. And then they build the second temple. And we're talking about minus 333. We know that Shimon was the leader then, right? So we're talking about another few hundred years. So the men of the Great Assembly here, they have quite a nice big role here too, a couple hundred years of history. Is that clear? Then we get to Shimon and Antigonus, and then I ran out of room, so I'm going to continue on the other side of the board. And then we have, I don't even have to write it down. Then we have the pairs. You wrote it down, right?
This.
Who's the first pair?
Yossi ben Yoaz, Yossi ben Yochanan.
Yossi and Yossi. And who's the second pair?
Yehuda ben Tabai and Shimon ben Shattach.
Good. And who's the third pair?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I skipped.
No, you
there.
skipped one.
I
You skipped one.
Yoshua ben Parah.
Yeshua and Nitai. We
Oh,
got that
okay.
inside, right? And then comes Yehuda.
Yeah.
Pair number 3 is Yehuda and Shimon ben Shattach. Shimon ben Shattach. Okay, go ahead. And the fourth pair is?
Shemaiah and
Avtalion, also a Greek name. And number 5, pair number 5, you might have heard of them before. Hillel and Shammai, right? Now, next to, so you've written all those 5 pairs down? We have 7 generations, and then 5 sets of pairs. It's another 5 generations. It's not quite generations, right? Because they said this is hundreds of years, and this is a few hundred years, right? So, but it's the way we're connecting ourselves back to Moshe Sinai, the oral tradition, the oral Torah. Our estimation is as follows. In the time of the first pair, Yossi and Yossi, right down next to them, the persecution of Antiochus. That's, right, we said the first 150 years or so were pretty good under the Ptolemaic Greeks. And only when we get to the first pair of Yossi and Yossi, that's when we have the persecution starting. But don't worry, the chain goes on, as you saw, despite the persecution, because we know that there was a miracle. Let's write down that the miracle of Hanukkah happened in the time of Yahushua and Nitai, the second of the pairs. Is that clear? You guys writing it down properly? And then there was Hasmonean Rule. Now, during the Hasmonean Rule, there was a king called Yanai, bad king, who married a Jewish woman called Helene, made her his queen, You might know the street in Jerusalem, the end of King George Street, at the end of King Yafo Street. There's a break-off. There's two break-offs. One's called Shlom Tzion Malka, one's called Helenia Malka. The Queen Helene and the Queen Shlom Tzion. These were at the time of Shimon ben Shetach. Shlom Tzion was the sister of Shimon ben Shetach. Shimon ben Shetach, that's the third pair, Yehuda and Shimon, in the third pair. So they were involved in this whole Hasmonean Rule and the fight with the different sects in the Second Temple. Finally, then we get to Shmai and Avtalion. By the way, Avtalion was a convert. And then we get to finally Hillel and Shammai. Already Hillel and Shammai are in the period of the Roman rule. Pompey conquered the land of Israel in minus 63, and we're talking about the times of Hillel and Shammai already under Roman control. Okay, so just placing us in the chain of tradition. Is that helpful?
Mm-hmm.
Please take the following pages, hand them around. And a fellow by the name of Ari Kaplan wrote these out based on many sources in the tradition. It's not exactly parallel to what we did from the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot, but it does follow the same general pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start from the beginning. Moshe and Yahushua, that's clear. Then we have the elders, that's clear. But he lists four of them. Pinchas and the elders. Eli, who was Eli? Number 3. Turn the page over, Renan. This page. This page.
Okay.
Eli was the Kohen Gadol. Great. When?
Whenever
He was the Morel somewhere.
Good. Next week he taught Samuel. That's right. He brought him up in under his wings.
Mm-hmm.
And Eli and his 2 sons died.
That's right. Excellent. So he was definitely one of the elders here, and David puts him with the elders. I don't know why exactly. We do have traditions that David was teaching and deciding. His son also was a court judge. Everybody heard of the Court of Solomon?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Famous judgment by Solomon with the 2 mothers. So the kings in those days, they also were judges in the courts. In any case, then we have the period of prophets. How many does he list here? From 7 through 21.
10. Oh, no, more than that.
Everybody see what I'm
14.
talking about?
Yes.
You have this page?
14.
14 prophets? Okay. There were more, but he, for some reason, chooses these. Achia, Elijah, you've heard of him?
Mm-hmm.
Elisha,
Mm-hmm.
a student of Eliyahu. Yehoyada, the priest, Zechariah ben Yehuda, Hosea, Amos, Isaiah, Micha, Yoel, Nahum, Chavakuk. These are books. They each have their own books. Zephaniah, Jeremiah is towards the end, and his student Baruch ben Neriah was also a prophet. So this is the period of the prophets. Then we get to the Great Assembly. As I said, this is 14. He said it's about 500 years. Right? There were more prophets as well, but he lists them as coming one after the other. So you get a sense that, yes, there is a chain of tradition, as it says at the top of the page. There's a chain of tradition, that traditions were passed down throughout the generations. 14 generations of prophets. Yes?
But in the beginning, it said where they were from. Now it doesn't say.
Correct.
After
Hillel and Shammai, that's
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Stop
They're the
saying
last
from
of the
where
pairs.
they were from.
I don't know.
Mm.
Good question. We know a little bit about Hillel's life. He came from Babylon, actually, and then settled. He became the chief of the yeshiva, the head of the yeshiva there. I think it was in Jerusalem, but I'm not sure. Other question, yeah.
Do we know what role does a goat would have played in Jewish society? Like maybe officially, would they have been like the Nasi and the Al-Baydin?
Yes, absolutely. We're getting there.
Okay.
But first, we're still in the Great Assembly, number 22. Everybody see on your page, number 22?
Mm-hmm.
Did you not get one?
No, we're sharing.
Why?
You want another one?
I sure do. All you have to do is ask. Okay. So number 22, we have, we don't, as I said, a couple hundred years. We don't know exactly how long, about 150 years. If the Great Assembly continued from Ezra, who we know came up from Babylon, from the exile, so it pretty much continues after Baruch ben Neriah. And Ezra in the Great Assembly consisted of 120 elders, including Chagai Zechariah, who have their own book. You see where I'm reading on page number 22? Chagai Zechariah had their own book. They're prophets. So there were some prophets in the Great Assembly. So see the connection. Daniel was also a prophet. Had a book. Does he have his own book?
Yeah.
It's good. Who are Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah?
They are the guys they walk through the.
That's right. Where did they appear? That story about them?
Daniel.
In the book of Daniel? That's right. Nehemiah, of course, the counterpart of Ezra. He's got his own book. Mordechai, you might have heard of. What book? That's right. And Zerubbabel, mentioned in the prophecies of Zechariah, and he came up also with the exiles. He was the leader of the people returning to Eretz Yisrael to create the second temple. Okay, and so we have these members of this great assembly with their leader. The last one. What does our mission tell us? Number 23. Shimon HaTzadik. We know that he went out to meet Alexander the Great in year 333. Right? We talked about it. It's easy to remember, right? So if we said minus 586 to minus 333, it's about 150 years of this men of the Great Assembly, with some of them prophets and some of them. So they're the leadership. Shimon HaTzadik. Then we get to pairs. Now I'm sorry. For some reason, Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan, when he printed the book, maybe it was the printer, whatever, he started the Tanaim right away. The Tanaim really, we usually don't call them the pairs Tanaim, although they do appear in the Mishnah, right? We've just been reading Mishnah. Masechet Avot is part of the Mishnah. And so they do appear. So he's not wrong. But usually we say that the first of the Tanaim was Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai, number 30. See around number 30, Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai?
Yeah.
He had a funny name. Have you ever seen this before? Rabban. What's Rabban? Usually say Rabbi. Wait, have you seen Rabbi before this?
He's a big guy.
No.
He's the first rabbi.
Who?
I don't see any rabbi. Did you see Rabbi so-and-so?
I haven't
No. This is the first. Wow. Well, you could call this the beginning of the era of the rabbis, maybe.
Oh, and that's in the timeline thing you gave us too. Maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I hope so. Yeah. You called it rabbinic Judaism?
Somewhere.
I don't
This
know.
one, right?
No,
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 it's not here.
it's not there. Okay.
Don't worry.
In any case, the pairs. So Antigonus, of course, was number 24. Anybody know where he was from? Soho, right? I think he loved sushi. And then we have pairs. Number 25 is pair number 1. Yossi and Yossi. What happened in that time? You can write it on your page. It's your page. Right? You can write next to Shimon HaTzadik. He met Alexander the Great. Beginning of the Greek Empire. Conquering of Eretz Yisrael, right?
Wait. So
Ezra, was the beginning of the Second Commonwealth, right?
It says here on 23, Shimon the Saint. That's referring to Shimon the Tzaddik.
Tzaddik. Tzaddik is saint, yes.
So Tanaim, it's until 29, 11 Shammai.
It really starts at number 30.
It's Tanaim.
Tanaim, correct.
And the pairs start at
The pairs start
Rabban
with number
Shimon?
25.
Rabban
No.
Shimon.
Number 25 is the first set of pairs.
Okay.
And we said it during the first set of the pairs, that's approximately when the Hanukkah story happened. Antiochus's persecution.
But Yossi Ben is the first set.
That's right. They're the first set of pairs. Number
Okay.
25.
But they are
Around
Tanaim.
Hanukkah.
You could call them Tanaim, but I think it's confusing to call them
Yeah.
Tanaim, so I would prefer not to call them Tanaim. I'd call them pairs.
Pairs. Okay.
That's why I wrote in the page. You see that? It's my handwriting.
Yeah.
Pairs. See that? And I even made an arrow with the word Tanaim. I didn't cross it out because it's not wrong. I put an arrow to who?
Tanaim down and pairs.
Rabban Shimon ben Yochanan ben Zakkai, on the number 30. Really, that's where the title should be. But again, this is the Second Temple era. And we don't know, with Shimon ben Shetach, this is all the Greek era. Hillel and Shammai were already in the Roman era. Shmai and Avtalion as well. Shimon ben Shetach was, there's stories about him and how he dealt with the Hasmonean leaders. But I guess Shmai and Avtalion were the first ones to really feel the power of the Roman Empire. Okay, is that clear? Now, the Tanaim. Let's talk about them for a little bit. And first, let's talk about the pairs. The pairs. If I were you, I would take a big line and make it that this is the beginning of the pairs, 25 through 29. Those make it clear on your page.
Not 24?
24, he didn't have a pair.
Yeah.
He didn't have a pair.
Right.
So.
He was alone.
Rabbi, I have a
Alone in Soho. I could see it a movie
yeah.
about Antigonos. Alone in Soho. Okay? So the pairs, yes.
I'm just apologies. This is a tangential question, but what does it matter that they're in pairs type of thing?
Oh, very good. So that's exactly the answer that we were going to discuss right now.
Okay.
And Russell asked the same question. Wait, up until now, there's been one leader, one prophet, one elder. Who was the leader? All of a sudden here we've got pairs of leaders. So the first one is known as the prince, the princes. They were the political leaders, but and the other one, right? So Yossi ben Yoezer, Yahushua ben Brachia, Yehuda ben Tabai, Shmai and Hillel. They were all the presidents, Nasi. Fancy name for them. They were the 5 presidents in a row. But at the same time, together with them, they had a pair. And the pair was the head of the sages, the scholars, the Sanhedrin. It says Sanhedrin, Greek word for the court, the Jewish court. So Yossi ben Yochanan, Nitai, Rebeli, Shimon ben Shetach, Avtalion, and Shammai were the head of the courts until Hillel actually took over the courts as well. But during this period of the pairs, the leadership was divided into 2. There was a president, a Nasi, and the Av Beit Din, the father, the head of the court.
Can you write those words on the
religious
board,
court?
please?
Sure. Right here. We have the Nasi, and we have the Av, which is the father, like the head of the Beit Din. You know the word Beit Din?
Yes.
Av Beit Din. Sometimes they make an acronym out of it, Abad, but you might not have heard that. Av Beit Din. So these are the pairs. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, where we have Hillel and Shammai.
So Nasi is princess, correct?
Prince, right? Yeah. Now wait, you might have heard the word prince, but go ahead, Renan.
So the Nasi,
Mm-hmm.
they are all lineage of David.
Excellent.
Wow.
This is what I was going to tell you next. That the tradition tells us that all the Nasim had good genealogy. They had lineage going back to the house of David. Now, what happened before it? We know that the house of David was during the era of the kings, right? All the kings from Judea were descended from David. And this was what a promise that God promised him. The kings are going to come from your line. But we know that there was an exile, and there was 150 years of the Great Assembly. Ezra apparently was from the line of the Davidic kings. And I guess Shimon was a Levi, so he was, like we know, he was a Kohen Gadol. So I don't know, but the tradition goes that somehow Yossi ben Yoezer had that in his blood, and Hillel had that in his blood. And then the next period, which we're going to talk about next, is what we called period of the Tanaim.
I have a
One second.
no.
Period of the Tanaim. We said the first generation. We said is Rabban. No, Rabban. What is it? Number 30.
Yonatan.
No,
Nope. Rabban Shimon.
Yochanan
Yohanan.
ben Zakkai. And we said that's a funny way of saying rabbi. This an here, Rabban, was a title used only for the Nasi. So you're going to find in these, we have 5 generations of Tanaim as well. Just put this way so everybody can see the board. If anybody's watching, Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai essentially was continuing on from Hillel, and he also was the prince or the president, whatever you want to call it, Nasi, however you want to translate Nasi. Nowadays we say the Nasi of Israel is the president of Israel, but in those days, I guess. And who was at the end of the 5 generations of Tanaim? The last guy. Who compiled the greatest book ever. The Yehuda Nasi. What is Nasi? It's the same word again. He was the prince. He was the president. He was the leader of the Jewish people. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, in the 5th generation, he compiled the Mishnah that we're holding right now. Everybody's holding a copy of the Mishnah, right? This book was compiled from the words of the Tanaim. But I guess there's some words of the pairs also, right? The pairs. So we have the pairs, we have the Tanaim. And before that, we even have something before the pairs. We have a little bit of Shimon and Antignos over here, right, in our Mishnah. And we mention, of course, Moshe, Yahushua, the elders, the prophets, the great assembly, Shimon and Tzaddik, Antignos. And then we get 5 sets of pairs, 5 generations of Tanaim. You guys are getting an idea of the chain of tradition. Now I'll take your questions. Renat and Jacob. Yes.
Okay, it's just like conspiracy theory. But,
It's just what?
conspiracy theory.
Conspiracy theory, yes.
But why the last president give the continuation of the Nasi for his son?
Who?
His son.
Who are you talking about? Who are you asking?
Hillel and the Rabban Shimon.
No, the president now.
You're asking why Herzog's.
Herzog.
Same reason why there's 2
Yeah,
questions.
he passed the.
Okay,
It wasn't until his son.
there are 2 President Bushes.
Well, if you think that's bad,
No, I think that's
watch
good.
this. Okay?
I think that's good. And his
Oh no. Is there confusing names coming up?
After Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, there's Rabban. I'm just going to go like this because I don't want to write it each time. Then there's Rabban Gamliel.
Ben Yochanan.
Rabban Gamliel. And then there's Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel.
Wait, is Gamliel the son of Yochanan?
No.
No.
And then there's Rabban Gamliel the second. Rabban Gamliel, he's known as the Rabban Gamliel of Yavne.
And he's the
No,
son.
no. The first one is Rabban Gamliel of Yavne. He's the son. Yeah, this is father's son. This is father's son. And then there's a second Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. And then Yehuda Nasi, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, and then his son was named Shimon, and he was the leader after him. So there's a lot of father-son stuff going on here.
So there's some connection. What happened
So there's 2 Gamliels?
2 Gamliels and 2 Shimon ben Gamliels,
last election?
just to confuse you.
There's some connection. What happened last election?
No, I don't think so.
Probably.
I don't think
It's
so. But
possible.
listen, there's politics is a world, and you make connections. So your children definitely have a leg up. So obviously he had to do a lot to himself to get there. But
You know
in
that
fact, the family name, I think it helps.
And his
He was elected in the end of the day.
grandfather was a chief rabbi.
That's right. That's right. There's a lot of family relations. Okay, so far so good. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi made the Mishnah, right? Mm-hmm. Jacob, you were going to.
Yes. Yes. I just want to make sure I completely understand. So when we're talking about the pairs, one pair was a part of the Nasi, the princes. Another pair was the Av Beit Din, like the head of the religious court.
That's right.
Which one is
The first is the Nasi. The second is the Av Beit Din.
So like when Antigonus passed on Torah, like did they just like share it? Like I don't.
Yes. It was all again. The picture is easy. You have a little scroll in your hand, a baton. You pass it over, but it's oral teaching.
It's oral Torah,
and so of course they had many students.
So did they like sit down and like?
It's just students.
They had many students, and they discussed it, and they passed on their traditions. These are the leaders of the generation, so it's easy for us to see. And with the eye, this is a chain of tradition. How many numbers do we have here?
Up to 30.
30.
So I just want to make sure I understand. So like
pieces.
Antigonus sat down with Yosef ben Yosef and Yosef ben Yohanan.
Probably for 30 years he was teaching them. Not that he sat down once and he gave them over. Listen, these are the secrets. Here's the codes to the nuclear bomb. Right. This was a giving over of a tradition, which is a lifelong job of relaying the oral tradition.
So basically,
maybe 50
all these people probably spent their entire lives receiving and then giving the
exactly. That's what we're trying to explain here. That there is a chain of tradition. The tradition includes ethics and halachot. But approach, values,
He could do to two generations actually, because like if you think like
that's right,
30 years or 50 years,
sure.
Depends how good of you are a learner.
Which is like we saw at the beginning, Yahushua and the Zacchanim, they both knew Moshe, right?
Yeah.
So there's overlap.
But
Right.
People like Yossi and Yahushua,
They probably both.
If there's a difference like 25 years each one.
That's right.
Like both of us could learn with Antigonus.
Correct. That's right. Amos, you wanted to ask something?
Yeah, I'm confused because you have a 6 name and 5 points.
That's right. These are not exactly. There's overlap. It's just usually when we talk about the Tanaim, it's best to divide them into 5 generations. But you could have one generation where there are 2 presidents, one after the other. So, yeah.
Sorry, last question. I'm sorry for taking up so much time.
Because the classes is going to be over, it might have to be the last.
In 22 in the Great Assembly, all of these are people that were a part of the Great Assembly. Is that correct?
Correct.
Do we know all of the 120 members?
We do not.
No. These are just like the more.
Why are they more famous? Because these were prophets.
But not everyone in the Great Assembly was a prophet.
No, not all 120. Only these 7, 8, whatever are mentioned here.
And what were the others like named?
Not
named. What were their name? What were the title more so?
Dan. I don't know. Josh. I don't know. Whatever names. They had names. I don't know what their names were. We don't know what their names.
Okay.
But they were probably not called rabbi. Rabbi comes later. Rabbi comes in the period of the Tanaim. Everybody starts to be called rabbi.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank
you.
And
the princes, they got called Rabban. Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai, Rabban Gamliel. All the others were rabbi, like Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. I guess for some reason you didn't get the name Rabban. I don't know why.
In French, is still the same word for say rabbi.
That's right.
And Rabban.
That's right. But it's an official title in the period of the Tanaim. Yes. Last question. Really, last question.
In a book of Kings, there's like many stuff about the kings, and they say if you want to know more, you go to the book of the Acts of the Kings.
Right, which we don't have them. Most of them
don't have them.
No, we don't have them. They didn't survive. We're lucky that the Tanakh survived. It's been so many years. We don't have those. But there's lots of oral traditions about what happened. And we're lucky that finally in this period, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi and the Tanaim, they realized that we got to get something down in writing because of the switch between the Greek Empire and the Roman Empire and the Jews being scattered and They didn't want it to go to get lost, so they wrote a lot of their teachings down. Luckily for us, we can study it till today. Tomorrow, bring your pages, because you might have noticed on the other side. Quickly, turn over the other side. You have the list.
I'm excited for tomorrow's class.
The Talmud, and there's one section which is marked
Avot?
Avot. That's what we're learning, right? That's what we just opened up today. So one part of the Talmud has this chain of tradition in it. Okay,
I'm so hyped for tomorrow's
great.
class.
To be continued. See you. Have a great day. And good luck lighting the Hanukkah candles.
We have class tomorrow,
Hanukkah
yeah?
Sameach. There is
And then nothing until next Sunday, correct?
there's to you.
Well,
2 days.
after 2 days. And then we have
Then you have a break.
No. Today and tomorrow is you. And
Yes,
Shimshim.
Tuesday,
On
Wednesday
the
is
break,
to
I'm
you,
going to
and
Tel
Thursday,
Aviv
I'll see you there.
Sunday's off.
because we're going to.
Who's we?
No, wait.
Myself and Shmuel, because we want to go to the Swedish embassy to get some stuff.
Go protest at the church.